as I've told you before, because I love it so much, they also created the Great Seal of the United States. And that Great Seal of the United States has on it Novus Ordo Seclorum, a new order for the centuries, for the ages, forever. So confident were that our founders in their idea about one generational responsibility, one to the next, that they were confident that our country, that what they were putting forth would exist for the ages. For the ages. That was the challenge they gave us. That is the responsibility that we have.
Human beings in a world war, it is, I think, permissible for me to search far back in the history of civilization in order to visualize important trends. On the Great Seal of the United States, which for a century and a half has reposed in the loving care of a long line of Secretaries of State of the United States, there appear these words: Novus Ordo Seclorum, which means a new order of the ages. In almost every century since the day that recorded history began, people have thought, quite naturally, that they were creating or establishing some kind of a new order of the ages. But in the scheme of civilization from which ours descends, I suppose that we can recognize that in approximately 2,500 years, there have been only a very few new orders in the development of human living under a thing called government. Without question, the philosophy of orderly government, in which the governed had some form of voice in a civilized society, goes back to the days of ancient Greece.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Monday, August 8th, 2011, and I'm Darko. My website is GGNonline.com, that's www.ggnonline.com, and ddarko2012 is my YouTube channel, so check it out. Links will be posted. I have a lot of news to get to in this first video, so just I'm going to go through this real quick for any of those naysayers or skeptics or whatever you want to call it. I mean, this is exactly from the Philadelphia Fed's website. So you can go to philadelphiafed.org and you can check this out. Franklin Roosevelt's role. Now that we know what the Great Seal stands for, we might ask why it appears on our paper money. Who made the decision? As you can see from the image to the right, the first small-sized dollar issued in America did not feature the Great Seal or much of the symbolism at all. And it says that it used to be called funnybacks, and it all changed in '34 when Vice President Wallace was waiting to go into a meeting, picked a publication of the Great Seal and focused on the Latin phrase Novus Ordo Seclorum. And he was talking to Roosevelt and saying that the message should be understood as the New Deal of the ages, which you know, you can say what you want about it, but either way, as Freemasons, now this is not a conspiracy site. Again, philadelphiafed.org. As Freemasons, both Roosevelt and Wallace saw the symbol above the pyramid as representing the all-seeing eye, the Masonic symbol of the great architect of the universe. President Roosevelt liked Wallace's idea very much, so much, in fact, that he decided to replace the design on the reserve of our $1 bills with something more symbolic and patriotic, the Great Seal of the United States. So there you go. There's a little brief stuff on it, and you can actually go in there, and they talk about it, and they say that how the Great Seal of the U.S. Says, and hidden within it are messages of our founding fathers who wanted to send the future generations of Americans. Yeah, and it's more like Freemasons, right? And Illuminists and travelers, fellow travelers. And of course, you got Jefferson and Franklin, pharaohs and turkeys, so more Egyptian pharaonic language, and that's what it's all based off of. Global markets plunge amid debt woes. So European markets all closed down following heavy U.S. losses as Wall Street reacted to Washington's loss of the top AAA credit rating. So I can go in there and check that out. I think it was 600 points the Dow dropped today. It says Chinese stocks closed down 3.79% on Monday. So it said here it finished at 11,312 points. Arab stocks also plunge over U.S. credit crisis, and there's always going to be crisis, and now this is just a new crisis, and it's all fabricated. Bank stocks plunge most since 2009. Biggest one, Bank of America. AIG sues Bank of America for $10 billion over massive mortgage fraud, and this was just a couple days ago. And then the day Bank of America's stock fell 20%, and it basically what it says, because it's after the insurance giant AIG sued the bank for $10 billion for overvaluing mortgage-backed securities. So that was the last scam. That was the last crisis. The last big fraud, and here comes more fraud, right? Because now you have a super Congress, less representation in your republic now, and it was slipped into a financial debt-raising ceiling bill. So I hope you like that. Dollar to be discarded by world, says China rating agency. And then we move on to dollar, the Australian dollar, sorry. Dollar falls to 4-month low. Then the Franc yen gain versus peers on downgrade. Europe crisis, dollar advances. Then the Yuan climbs most in a week on U.S. rating downgrade. And even the old Mexico Peso weakens to lowest since December on U.S. rating downgrade. Okay, Treasuries surge after S&P downgrade fuels safety bid. Stocks index sink. S&P begins to cut AAA rated muni bonds after downgrading U.S. debt rating. Cut the ratings on about $366 million of federal lease-backed bonds as it began to announce reports on municipal securities affected by the company's August 5th downgrade of the United States. Then moving on to commodities here. They were basically plunging, and it says here Brent crude now at $103 a barrel, and it was down $5.60. Gas oil futures were down $12. That's right, gas is going down. Then heating oil futures were up almost $2. Natural gas about steady even. Then all of these were down as far as agriculture goes. Cocoa was down 30, corn 17, wheat about 30, soybean 25, and then moving down to precious metals, we had copper. It was down $2.85, trading at $393.30. Gold is the big story, $1,724 now, and who knows how much it's going to go up now. It says it's up $10, almost $11. And it says here silver futures just below $40, and it was down 11 cents. Poor silver, it's so undervalued. It says here oil falls to 8-month low in New York as investors buy treasuries and gold. Then Iran oil LPG exports to China are going to increase. It says here, oh yeah, and just a quick side note, Iran also discovered a gas field, natural gas field. China's July inflation to exceed 6%, says analysis, and Toyota now number 3 in global vehicle sales. So said sold 3.7 million vehicles worldwide this year, down 11% compared to a year earlier, as sales crashed 60% on production disruption caused by the globalist HARP-induced man-made earthquake that basically declared financial war on a somewhat sovereign nation. Talking about Japan there. Japan rice futures surge 40%, trigger circuit breaker on concerns Fukushima radiation will destroy crop. In an excerpt from Bloomberg, there's a chart that says people are very concerned that rice supplies may be smaller on fear of radiation contamination. Mr. Chino, chairman of the exchange's rice futures trading committee, told reporters in Tokyo. Then FedEx to raise U.S.-Canada freight rates almost 7%. And then the 830,000 homeowners in negative equity trap, and it says more than 800,000 families are crippled by a mortgage larger than the value of their home, an alarming report warned yesterday. Then we have pension warning amid market turmoil. People nearing retirement were facing increased uncertainty today amid the stock market turmoil that has wiped trillions off global share prices. It says 8 million Britons have their pension fund invested in money purchases or defined contribution schemes where the size of an annual pension is usually linked to how stock markets perform. Then S&P downgrades Fannie and Freddie, and they went from AAA to AA. Then S&P downgrades U.S. credit rating for the first time. And moving on here, Moody's backs USA's AAA rating, and S&P cuts Fannie and others. So it says S&P's began issuing a number of rating downgrade Monday as it explores the far-reaching effects of the downgrade of the U.S. credit rating issued. Rival ratings agency Moody's reaffirmed the country's AAA status. Then, oh yeah, Moody's, don't forget, they got raided just the last report 3 days ago. Their office is for fraud or something. It says here, Moody's says U.S. needs to find more deficit cuts. And moving on here, U.S. debt downgrade could mean rate hikes for all. So now this is what pisses me off, okay, is because they were just, Obama was out there talking about, if we don't pass this deal, then interest rates are going to go up. Okay, so they passed a deal, they slipped in the Super Congress or the Super Committee that can override, whatever basically other congressmen want to do. And it creates a committee of, 12 plus 1, the 13 with the president. But anyways, so after all that scaremongering, everything's going to be okay now. Now we have this. Now we're talking about rate hikes, and Obama's talking about how we're not going to increase the rates. Well, now we have a super Congress, and just go ahead and do that. You see how it works? So they got what they wanted. And then they're going to increase the rates by force with the super Congress that was created in the first bill. So complete bullshit. Jim Rogers, don't see how U.S. can ever pay off debts, and that's right? So it's here pressure. I think it's 100% of GDP. That's what we're looking at right now. The amount of debt the U.S. holds to GDP, and it says pressure grows. And I may be wrong in that. If I am, just correct me in the comment board. As far as financial news, I'm not an expert. I like to go more into international, like the war on terror and Big Brother and all that, and eugenics. But I feel that this rigged fascist economy, whatever you want to call it, corporatist economy, needs to be covered. So I cover it. Pressure grows for Fed to act as stocks plunge, and it says it's still a remote possibility, but one that becomes increasingly more plausible with every tick lowering in the plunging global stock markets. So that's right. Most analysts still expect the Federal Reserve not to make any major changes. And it says some are beginning to wonder whether the market disruptions of recent sessions warrant some kind of central bank intervention. So you know what that means, right? More inflation, more buying of treasuries, and that. Global policymakers discuss debt crisis, market turmoil. So now the experts are going to get together, the ones that helped create this, and they're going to get together and they're going to determine your future. This new order of the ages, right? ECB, European Central Bank, to hold Sunday conference call on crisis source. Now another crisis. We're to get together. The financial crisis. G7 meets up to hold emergency conference. Then the G20 moves to calm markets after local shares. They see all this crap. U.S. Treasury Secretary will not resign, and why? Well, because he didn't complete the mission. He was supposed to jump ship after they did everything. With this debt ceiling raise and all that, but no, it's not over. Geithner, S&P showed terrible judgment, so that's what Geithner's saying, and Obama, U.S. will always be AAA rated despite downgrade, so they're both out of touch with reality, right? ECB buys Italy, Spain bonds, easing fares, so they went ahead and did that, then, create more inflation over there. People lose their standard of living and their purchasing power. And downgrade raises stakes for deficit super panels. So shaken by historic debt downgrade, markets look for signs that a congressional deficit reduction super committee, super Congress, would produce a fiscal policy breakthrough, but they were likely to be disappointed. No chance of default, says Greenspan. U.S. can just Print money. Okay, yeah, all right. Good policy. Greece bans short selling as stocks tank. Then U.S. will roll out QE3 after S&P rating cut, Donkey says, and then carried by Cryptagon and Business Insider. The U.S. government has to come to terms with the painful fact that the good old days are over when it comes to just borrowing its way out of messes of its own making are finally gone, Xinhua wrote. Then $1 billion bet in July of U.S. downgrade brings questions of insider information. Talking about globalist Soros. Online retail spending rises 14%. Lawmakers hope Arizona can cash in on California internet tax. And Australian businessman supports online sales. Why aren't more states pursuing an online tax? Then we have this. Illinois moves to tax online purchases. So what happens? Amazon closes Illinois affiliates after Quinn signs online tax bill, killing business. So let's go ahead and tax online. One of the few things where we're actually having some purchases and commerce going on. Let's kill that shit right now. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.